Okay, you have been able to solve something like this now for a while. 2x plus 3 equals 11. If you remember going through and solving it, you're like, I could do that. Subtract 3 from both sides. And divide by 2. X equals 4. Now consider what you've actually found. You didn't just solve a problem for your math teacher. You pulled out this mystery. You solved it. Said, we've got a number here. We're timesing it by 2. We add 3, and we end up with 11. What number did we start with? And you were able to unravel that mystery. This number 4. Now, you did it by certain processes that we taught you, but really, you could have done it by guessing and checking. You know, you've got 2x plus 3 equals 11. Unravel it, you get x equals 4. The way you know that this is correct is that when you stick that 4 right up there, 2 times 4 is 8. Plus 3 is 11. It's true. Once this guy is true, that means this is a solution. Well, we start to do that with some other things, such as this. X plus y equals 9. Now, first thing you'll notice is that there are 2 variables there. That means you have to give me 2 numbers in order to give me an answer. 2 numbers put together, 1 answer. You can pop out a few numbers. What adds together to give you 9? Well, if you had x equals 4, y equals 5, that'd be an answer. Give me another one. Good. X equals 1. Y equals 8. X equals, negative 3. Y equals what? 12. Now, not a set method of how we're getting this. But these two are linked together. We couldn't do 4 with x and y is 8. This right here, 2 numbers working together create 1 answer. And you remember what that's called? If you have 2 numbers together, well, a number is an ordinate. And working together, that's where you get 2 of them. We just made a coordinate. And so we refer to Rene Descartes and his stuff. He made a Cartesian coordinate system where you can put these answers on a line. Now, the reason we have to use that is how many of these answers are there? I mean, think about it. We could do x equals 509, y equals negative 500. That'll add up to 9. And we have myriads of answers, oodles and gobs. Let's try another one. 2x plus y equals 7. Now notice, we're not just taking the 2 numbers and adding them up to equal 7. We're 2 times the first one plus the second one equals 7. So in this case, 0 to 7 would work. X is 0, y is 7. We're going to put these like that. Here's the x, there's the y, alphabetical order. And the parentheses say those 2 numbers are together. This all together is 1 answer. What if x were 3? 2 times 3 is 6 plus, we need a 1. What if that were a 5? 2 times 5 is 10. This would have to be a negative 3. And we have a whole bunch of them. Well, this is a grand secret. We can't write them all down, but you can draw them. And that's why we've studied the charts and the graphs and all that sort of thing. So when you have this right here, you get, let's go 4, 5, 1, 8, negative 3, 12. And you start to see a pattern emerging. Let's see if I can get it. Turns out that every single point on this line will be a solution to this equation. And you graph both of them. So the solution means that every time we put that in, this will be true. 4 and 5, 1 and 8, 2 and 7, 3 and 6, 0, 9, 9, 0. So every time you have 2 things in there and you're asked to solve it or graph it, this will be a straight line. And you can graph a whole bunch of them, but you'll find out that, let's see, 0, 7, 3, 1, 5, negative 3. You can graph 3 or 4 or 5 points to make sure you have the line right in a row, but you really only need about 2 of them. So, let's see if you can do this one. For x minus y equals 13. Now, you can do this in a couple of different ways. You can just guess and check like we have been. That's one way to find an answer. Another way to find an answer is to actually just stick a number in for one of them. Just pick a number out of the blue. 5. So we stick 5 in for x. Now, you may have to come over here and do a small problem. Okay, 4 times 5 minus y equals 13. That's 20 minus y equals 13. Subtract 20 minus y equals a negative 7. And divide by negative 1, y equals 7. So that means 5, 7 is one of them. And that's all right to go ahead and do that. Find some x's and y's that work. So, stick a number in here again. Just pick another number. 0. 4 times 0 is 0 minus, well, that better be a negative 13.
Let's zoom in on this problem a little bit so we can see exactly what we're doing. So we've already gotten the 2 points, 5, 7, and 0, negative 13. And the homework will often give you a table like this and say, hey, stick in 2 for x and see what its partner is. Stick in 7 for x and see what its partner is. Likewise, negative 3 for y and 5 for y. And I'll have you fill out the rest of this table. Well, let's go ahead and do that. If we stick in 2 in for x, that's going to give us a certain problem. That's 4 times 2 minus y equals 13. Well, this is a problem we know how to do. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus y is 13. We can solve that. Subtract 8 from both sides, and we get minus y equals 5 when we subtract 8 and subtract 8. Divide by a negative 1, and we get y is a negative 5. So negative 5 is the partner for this 2. Let's try another one where we stick 7 in for x. Let's put it down here so we can see where it is. This would be 4 times 7 now, minus y equals 13. 4 times 7 is 28. 28 minus y equals 13. Yeah, we can solve this. Subtract 28 from both sides, and we get minus y equals 13 minus 28 is negative 15. So we now divide by a negative 1, and we get y equals 15. So that's the partner for 7. Next one. Now negative 3 isn't going in for x, it's going in for y. So we get 4x minus this negative 3 equals 13. That gives us 4x plus 3 equals 13. Can we solve this equation? Sure we can. Subtract 3 from both sides. That's 4x equals 10. And divide both sides by 4. X equals 10 fourths. Or does that fraction reduce? It does indeed. 5 halves. So sometimes you'll get a fraction in these tables, and that's all right. And the final one, a 5 right here. Stick that in for y, and let's put this guy right over here. We have 4x minus 5 equals 13. See how each one of these numbers gives you a mini little problem to work out to find its partner? Yeah, add 5 and you get 4x equals 18. Divide by 4 and we have x equals 18 divided by 4. 18 fourths, which is the same as 9 halves. Yeah, 9 halves right there. Now, this is definitely overkill. We really only needed these 2 points to see where the graph was. 5, 7, let's see, that's about 5 over and 7 up. 0, negative 13, wow, that's way down here a ways, about there. Well, we know this is the line. Let's see if we can draw a straight line here. Kind of curved, but that's all right. Well, look at each of these points. This one we found with the 2, negative 5. That's going to be about right there. The red one, 7, 15. That's going to be like way up here. The green one, 5 halves, that's like 2.5, and then minus 3, so that'll be about right there. And then the last one we found, 9 halves and 5, so that's over here, 4.5, and then up like 5, right about there. There you go. And they'll all find, you could find billions of them, and they'll all lie on that straight, perfect line that we've drawn there. One thing that we do need to note here is there are very specific special points. You'll notice this guy right in here crossed the y-axis. At this point right here, 0, negative 13, it was one of the first two we found. We call that intercept. So an intercept crosses, it's where this line crossed the y-axis. So we call it the y-intercept. So this one up here, we didn't find this point, but I guess we can, would be called the x-intercept. I'll just abbreviate it with INT. And how do you think we'd find that guy? Let's do it. Let's label him in purple there. And how would we do that? Well, if we're trying to find where it would cross the x-axis, that means the y has to be at 0. So we make our own little problem. We say we want to find the intercept by putting a 0 in for y. And then we make our own little problem here. 4x minus 0 equals 13. Oh, we can do that. 4x equals 13. X equals 13 fourths. There's the partner right there. So that point is the x-intercept and is 13 fourths, which if you put that in a calculator, that's about 3.25, and then 0. And that will be able to give you the x-intercept. Graphing can happen in two ways. The first is
pick and stick. So you pick a number, stick it in. Solve to get its partner. Pick a number, 2, stick it in. 3, solve it. And then you do it again. And you can do it again, as many times as you need to in order to be able to graph that line. Now, kind of a spin-off on here. If you want to find the intercepts, which you'll be asked to do, be able to find out exactly where it crosses the x-axis or exactly where it crosses the y-axis, when you pick a number, the only thing different, pick 0 for x. That will give you the y-intercept. 0 for y will give you the x-intercept. And that's the only difference. Then you stick it in, you solve, you repeat. And you'll be able to get the intercepts. Some of them you'll like to stick in the number 1 or the number 7 or number 5 or pi if you'd like to. And that will allow you to graph it. Now you'll notice some of these lines have been going down, some of them have been going up. There's a measurement of how steep something is that will help you in being able to graph lines, identify them, stuff like that. So this is a summary of how to graph lines. Now we're going to change gears just for a little bit. We're going to teach you about steepness.
to the boards!
Welcome back to the boards. It's time to practice some XY tables. We've been learning how to finish XY tables and get linear graphs from them. There's a 4-step process for this. The first thing you should do is plug in the given value. If they give you an X, plug it in for the X. If they give you a Y, plug it in for the Y. Then you're going to solve for the other variable. Once you've done that, you can graph your line using those points. If you need to find a y-intercept, you should always plug in 0 for x. And if you're looking for the x-intercept, plug a 0 in for y. Now it's your turn to practice. Take out your video notebook and try these 4 problems. On number 1 and number 2, you need to complete the table and then graph the points to get the line. On number 3 and 4, you just need to find the intercepts. Good luck. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. Step number 1, we're going to work with this 3. I'm going to plug the 3 in for the x. So 2 times 3, that gets me 6 plus y equals 8. And I need to solve for the missing value. So I got to solve for y. I'm going to minus 6 to both sides. That gets me y equals 2. So I know that 3, 2 is a point on the graph. Let's graph it. 1, 2, 3 to the right and up 2. Excellent. Let's try the next one. Let's plug 0 in. When I plug 0 in for x, I get 2 times 0 plus y equals 8. And 2 times 0, that's just 0. So y equals 8. So 0 left and right and up 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ooh, it's off my graph there, but it would be right there. Okay, nice. Now, because we plug 0 in for x, you should be aware that that's the y-intercept. Notice that it crosses the y. Let's keep going. Plug -2 in for x. When I do that, 2 times -2, that's -4 plus y equals 8. So y equals 12. That's not even going to be on my graph, so I'm not going to try to graph it. Let's now plug in 0 for y. When I plug 0 in for y, I get 2x plus 0 equals 8. That 0 just goes away. And I divide by 2 to find out that x equals 4. I can graph this point. Let's see. I've got to go 4 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 0. Perfect. 4, 0. That's the x-intercept. Notice that when you plug 0 in for y, you get the x-intercept. Let's plug in 4 for y. I get 2x plus 4 equals 8 minus the 4 over. I get 2x equals 4. When I divide by 2, I get x equals 2. So 2, 4 should be a point. 1, 2, up, 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. And notice these will all be in a straight line if you've done it right. And you can take your line and connect them. And there you have it. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2, let's plug 1 in for x. When I do that, I get y equals 3 times 1 minus 6. Well, 3 times 1 is just 3. And when you do minus 6, you get -3. So the first point we found is 1, -3. I go 1 over on the x and down 3 on the y. Okay. Next point. Next thing we're going to plug in is -1 for x. When I do that, I get y equals 3 times -1 minus 6. 3 times -1 is -3. And if you subtract 6 from that, you get -9. So the point -1, -9, I'd have to go to the left 1 and then down 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow, it's way down here. It's like off my graph paper. Okay. Next one. I'm going to plug 0 in for x. When I plug 0 in for x, ooh, this is 3 times 0. I just get y equals 3 times 0 minus 6. Well, that's just 0 minus 6, which is -6. Okay. So 0, -6 is my y-intercept. I go 0, down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Huh. Okay. Good. Next one. We're going to plug 6 in for y. Now, 6 in for y, that's over here. 6 equals 3x minus 6. Now, we've got to solve for x. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides. I get 12 equals 3x. I got to get x by itself. So I'm going to divide by 3. And I find out that 4 equals x. We can graph that. 4, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right and up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's all the way up there. Good. Let's plug 0 in for y. When you plug 0 in for y, you get 0 equals 3x minus 6. I got to get x by itself, so I add the 6 over and then divide by 3 to get 2. So 2, 0 is also a point. We can connect those, and we get a line that looks like that. Okay, nice work. Let's keep moving on. Number 3, find the x and y intercepts for this line. To do that, the best way is to create an xy table. We're going to plug 0 in for x and then 0 in for y. Let's do 0 for x first. When I plug 0 in for x, I get 4 times 0 minus y equals 8. 4 times 0 is just 0, so I'm left with -y equals 8. I divide by -1 to get y equals -8. So my y-intercept is at 0, -8. When I plug 0 in for y, I get 4x minus 0 equals 8. So it's just 4x equals 8. When we divide by 2, when we divide by 4, we get x equals 2. And so those are my 2 points. My y-intercept is 0, -8, and my x-intercept is 2, 0. We can do the same thing on number 4. I create my XY table. I'm going to start by plugging 0 in for x. When I do that, I get y equals 6 times 0 minus 11. 6 times 0 is just 0, so it comes out to be negative 11. And to get, that's the y-intercept. To get the x-intercept, I'm going to plug 0 in for y. 0 equals 6x minus 11. I got to get x by itself, so I'm going to add the 11 over and then divide by 6. So I get 11 over 6. And so that is my x-intercept. And again, you can write those as points. It would be 0, negative 11 for the y-intercept, and 11/6, 0 for the x-intercept. Thanks for going to the boards. Keep working hard.